Hi guys, I thought I will do a really quick video on preparation of the motorcycle for the season. This is the beginning of the season for me, so I thought it will be actually a great opportunity for me to record a short video so we can all take care about our bikes before the season, make sure that we'll do all the checks necessary and be safe for the next season. I will use my service manual for my bike that will actually outline all the major checks for the bike. So stay with me and let's see what we can do for our bike. Before we actually start working on the bike, it is always my preference to wash the bike really quickly, make sure that I have all this dust out from the winter, and I will just wash the bike really nice, make sure that when I'm working on the motorcycle everything is nice and clean. This is just my personal preference, of course it's not required, but I really enjoy working on this bike anytime I have extra minute, so I will always do that before I start working on anything. So step number one in checking if our bike is ready for the spring is actually installation of the battery, but I personally prefer not to remove the battery from the motorcycle for the winter storage. I'm just using the trickle charger. I actually try to charge my battery about every other month or every month for about an hour. That's definitely enough for my bike, and I have the opportunity to check some comments from people on the forums, and sometimes they notice that actually the battery is lasting only about 2-3 years for the motorcycles when they place those batteries on this charger for all the time. And I was lucky enough, I have probably about 6-7 years of the battery from every single motorcycle I own. They were all 3 Harleys. I always go with the OEM battery. I think this is money well spent. They are maybe like 20-30 bucks more expensive, and I'm pretty sure that there are other companies that are actually manufacturing those for Harley Davidson, but I always just go to the dealer and buy fresh battery, and with the maintenance that I do, I'm able to get about 8-6-7 years from every single battery, which I consider a really nice lifespan. I actually bought the bike in the past that was all the time connected to one of those, and after 3 years the battery was dead, so I decided to just continue with my charging schedule that I have for so many years that I have these motorcycles in the past. So since I won't really install the battery, I thought I will at least check what is the voltage on the battery just to make sure that everything is nice and ready for the spring. So let me show you how I do that. So in order to actually check the voltage of the battery, I will take just the pigtail, that is extension that is going directly to the battery. This is actually for charging with the trickle charger, or I also can use it for measuring the voltage. So I will put one probe in here, the other one in here, and as you can see we are about 12.93 volts. That is definitely good, and this is what I wanted. And I actually tried to charge the battery like few days before I think I will be riding, and that was working pretty good for me. So as far as battery check, we are good to go. The second step in the process will be actually checking the spark plug. Unfortunately for the model of the bike that I have, which is 2019 Heritage Softail, I have 4 spark plugs, and 2 of them are really easy accessible. Unfortunately, the other 2 require that I will leave the tank. So just for the purpose of this video, I will show how to check the spark plug really quickly. So first we will remove the cable So I actually removed it a little bit before just to make it easier. I will put it in here. Then I will take the wrench that's a little bit longer actually for the spark plugs, and this one that I have is a 5/8. So I will put it in here. All right, we're almost out. So you can see the spark plug is nice and tan. I was actually really curious how my spark plugs will look like. The motorcycle is bone stock, so there was no changes actually to anything that I did besides putting the new pipes. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, maybe slightly lean, but I will say this is pretty good for what the bike is in the stock form. So that's what I got. I will put a little bit of anti-seize just to make sure that everything is sitting nice and snug in here, that there is really no damage to the thread, and it will be easy to remove later on. Okay, this spark plug is back in. I will say be careful when you remove this boot. Make sure that you hold it really nice and tight, just so you don't remove the rubber cover from the connector, because sometimes it can cause the issues later on. So of course I will do the same thing for the front cylinder in here, but just to save the time, I will just skip this part. The next step in our verification for the bike and our check for the spring, manual actually recommend to check the air filter. I have the spare air filter in here that I'm planning to install this season. So they would like to make sure that everything is nice and clean, that after you put the filter into the light, you can actually see through it. And yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, this one is pretty nice. I get this one ready before, and I use the K&N recharger kit. So one part of this kit is actually the cleaner for the filter, and the other one is the oil. So after you clean the filter really nicely, and you make sure to pour the water from the inside, just so all the debris will come out on the bottom from the outside part. You will dry this filter overnight, so just to make sure that is really nice and dry, and then you will use this oil for the filter, and you will just spray it on really nicely, just to make sure that it will trap all this debris from the road. Actually, Harley-Davidson is using the filters that can be clean. Initially, I didn't know that. I was always using K&N filters, and after I bought this bike, I went to the dealership and I asked the clerk behind the counter to actually sell me new air filter, and he was asking me if I have this specific Harley-Davidson one. And after I told him yes, he told me you can just wash this filter. It doesn't require any oil. So if you have a filter that is actually stock for Harley-Davidson and it's actually the dry one, you don't really need to buy the new one. If everything is in nice shape and all these ridges are nice and they are not bent, you can just clean it really nicely and just let it dry, and it will be ready for installation. Number 4 tip for checking the bike is actually checking the belt drive and the sprocket. This is really a nice check, that if somebody have the motorcycle with the chain, I will recommend that they clean the chain really nicely. They have specific sprays to cleaners for the chain that you can buy from automotive stores. So it's always a good idea to make sure that the secondary drive on the bike is nice and clean and in good order. So let's go and check that out right now. So here is our belt, and this is our sprocket. So what you will do, you will try to just find a spot that you can actually see the tooth on the teeth on the sprocket, and you will inspect them. And also you can actually pull the belt a little bit, and maybe like looking from the side, you will make sure that all the belt is nice and clean, that there is no debris inside, there is no unusual wear on this, and yeah, you will just go through the whole thing. And unfortunately, I don't have the tool for the tension of the belt, but one of the really nice tips that I hear from old timers and also from motorcycle forum, that you can try to actually deflect the belt like sideways, and if you can do that with your one hand about like 45 degrees, that is indication that it's pretty good. So of course I should supposed to have the specific tool that is available from Harley, probably for about like 30-40 bucks, maybe even less than that. So I will probably do it in the future. Just for now, just to make sure that there is a little bit of flex in here is good enough for me. And yeah, there is the window for inspection. If you have the tool, it will actually put specific amount of pressure on the belt, and you will be able to see this deflection. So this is our belt drive. And like I said, if you have the chain, you will clean everything really nicely, make sure that there is no debris in the chain as well. I have to say, I really like the belt drive on the Harleys. They are like minimum maintenance. Those are Kevlar belts. They last for a really long time. So I'm really happy with this solution that was offered to Harley riders. Those are actually the main checks for the pre-season. And in this book, that is actually the manual for the owner. They actually recommend that we'll go through additional checks that should be done before every single ride. So let's check what we got on this one. So the next step in pre-ride checklist that will be part of this verification ready for our season is actually make sure that we have the fuel in the tank, which sounds kind of funny, but of course it's always a good idea to check that out. I always fill up the tank before the end of the season. I also add the fuel stabilizer. So this is actually really nice that this bike have the gauge, so we can check that really quickly. So here I will bring my keys just so they are close to the bike. I will turn on the bike, the ignition, and as you can see, there is a gauge in here that is showing how much fuel I got. Of course, the easier way is to just open the cap and check it out, but since I already have this gauge, it's even easier for me. The next step will be adjusting the mirrors. So obviously my bike is on the stand, so I cannot really do that right now. But yeah, you will just sit on the bike, make sure that you can see really nicely behind you, and adjust the mirrors just to make sure that everything is nicely visible for you when you are riding. The next check will be the engine oil check. So this is the dipstick on my bike. What you will do, you will remove the dipstick, remove it and clean it really nice with the rag, making sure it's nice and dry. You will put it back in, check your oil, make sure everything is nice and fine. If everything is good, you will put it back on and you will be done. Here we go. The next step is actually checking the brake fluid on your bike. So as you can see, there is a nice window that is showing how much fluid you have. It's always a good idea to use the flashlight. Maybe it doesn't look the best on the video, but it's always really helpful. As you can see, there is nice amount of brake fluid. So we'll also do that for the rear brake. Here you can see there is actually like nice amber color. So yes, this full reservoir is filled out with the brake fluid, and this is still the factory setting. So it looks like I'm okay on the fluid. Sometimes they recommend replacement of the brake fluid every 2 years. So please pay attention to that. The brake fluid will actually absorb the humid from the air. So it's a good idea to always keep an eye on this item. Brake pads are actually the next item that we'll have to check, and this one is a little bit more difficult depending on how visible the brake pads are. For Harley, they actually did a pretty good job to have the access to visibly check the brake pads, and we'll also inspect the rotors really quickly, make sure that everything is in order. You can actually see the brake pads in here. As you can see, I have a really thin brake pad, so I will be probably for replacement on the front. On this side is kind of okay, but on the other side, when I took a look, unfortunately I cannot really show that clearly here, but yeah, there is not that much life left on this one. Yes, as you can see on the back, I have a little bit more lag. There is still plenty of meat on this brake. So this is from the inside. And this is the view from the outside. So there is definitely way more pad on this side. So in order to check the rotor, you will actually turn your wheel, just touch it, make sure it's nice and smooth. Yeah, I think this one is kind of getting there, but yeah, it's still working okay. Just would like to make sure that everything is nice and smooth in here. You can actually also like wipe it down with the degreaser that is for the brake. So here you go. Just make sure everything is nice and straight. There is nothing really abnormal here. Yeah, just regular use, but yeah, I will be definitely up for the front brake pads replacement pretty soon. Of course, you will do the same thing for the back wheel as well. What you will do next, you will make sure that all the levers are working properly. So this one is for the brake, of course. So you will make sure everything is nice and tight in here. The same thing for the clutch. Brake on the back. This is a good idea, of course, to have the bike on the ground and try to roll it and check the brakes. So we'll do that later on. Throttle, supposed to like pull up really nicely. So looks like we are good on this one. The next check will be the shifter. Sometimes they are getting loose, so it's always a good idea to make sure that everything is nice and tight in here and make sure everything is operating smoothly. I'm good on this one. They don't have the heel shifter anymore on the newer bikes. I never actually like it, but I know a lot of people like it, so it's a good idea to just make sure everything is nice and tight in here. There is no loose bolts or anything like that. Next, you will make sure that everything is turning nice and smooth. So in this case, actually having the bike on the lift really helps. I have to say I'm really happy with what I see here. I mean, everything is like super smooth and nice. So I will consider this check to be pretty good. You will make sure that the handlebar is turned like all the way one way and also all the way the other way. If you have different lines, or if you replace some of the components of your handlebars or maybe the handlebars, make sure that nothing is touching the tank, that there is no scratches, there is enough clearance for everything. Here we go. The next check is still related to the brakes. So the manual is actually asking us to check all the lines to make sure that there is no kinks, that everything is nice and dry, there is no leaks. So as you can see, my brake line is going on the other side. So let's go on the other side really quickly. Here we go. We stop about here. Yeah, this is all good. There is no damage. This is good. And I will also check really quickly the rear brake line. So this one is hidden a little bit and starts about here, and kind of hard to get this one, but unfortunately I cannot really show it like really good on the camera, but you can touch it really nicely and you can actually see the line coming in here. So just make sure you like follow it with your hand, make sure everything is nice. And the line is going in here. This is the line in there and actually comes over here and goes into the brake. So let's just make sure whatever we can touch is nice and smooth. Next check is the tire pressure and also like the depth of the tread on the tire. This is something that I try to do before every ride actually, especially the tire pressure. This is a critical factor for our safety. So I check the tread periodically, but the tire pressure almost religiously before every ride. So let me make sure I have zeroed this one down. I'm at 32 up front, and let's see the back. All right, let's check the back. This one is about 35, 36. Next, I will check the tire tread. Okay, the tire tread is really easy. What you will actually do, you will turn your wheel, and I have to say, like, having the flashlight is really helpful because you can really focus on specific part of the tire. You will inspect the whole tread around the tire just to make sure there is nothing unusual. I can actually see something in here. So yeah, I will inspect that a little bit closer in the second. But yeah, there is nothing really bad looking in here. I have about 8,000 miles on this tire. So yeah, I will expect that probably 2,000 more miles on this one. It really depends on your riding style. So just pay attention when you get to probably like 5,000-6,000 miles. Just to verify this a little bit closer is a good idea. Make sure you check the sides as well. Okay, we are almost done. Another check that the manufacturer recommend is actually to check the preload on the shock, especially on the back. I actually did it before by myself on this bike, and I mean there is nothing that can really change without my input, so I know what it is, and I set up this motorcycle for two-up riding with a little bit of baggage that I will take with me, so I'm sure everything is still the same on this one. And the last check that we'll have to do is actually all the electrical stuff. So let's check our lights and all the electrical equipment on our motorcycle right now. So for this check, I actually turned on some of the lights in the garage just so I can kind of see if everything is working as far as lights. So first I will turn on the ignition. It looks like everything is nice in here. I will actually check if all the indicators are working properly, so I can check in here to see my mileage and reserve, time, RPMs. So looks like at least this switch is working. Horn, I'm good in there. Changing the lights, auxiliary lights. Okay, right now we'll verify if the turn signals are working properly. So left turn signal, yeah, it looks like the indicator is correctly showing that everything is working, but just to make sure 100%, I will go up front, make sure that everything is working properly in here. Also on the back, as we can see, the running light is working properly for sure. So let's check the right turn signal. Indicator is also showing properly that everything is working. And here we go, up front. Also on the back, Now our hazardous lights. All right. This is good. And double check on the back. Looks like everything's working properly. And now I will try to verify the brake. This was the handlebar brake. And we see. Yep. Looks like everything's fine. All right, starter is working. So yeah, I will definitely finish that up when the bike is on the ground. But yeah, that's about it. So those were actually all the checks required and recommended as per manual from the manufacturer. I really hope that that was helpful. So instead of actually looking for your manual and reading the book, you can just follow this video and you should be able to hit all the points that were recommended to make sure that you are safe on the road for your new riding season. And I have like a few more videos with modification, so please follow and share, and I will be more than happy to provide some additional insight for the other motorcycle riders. Thank you very much guys for watching, and I really appreciate all your support. So if you can share with your friends and kind of recommend the channel, that would be awesome. This is something new that I try to do, and yeah, I do my best to kind of like bring helpful tips and information for all motorcycle riders. Thank you so much and ride safe guys. Bye bye.